How was you approached to be part of this project?
I received a phone call and possibly also an email from Brother Tariq Nasheed's assistant, Brother Ola, I believe his name is, and he said that they wanted me to participate in a documentary. They needed an interview from me, and that the documentary would be on the hidden history of African people. And so I agreed to participate. We scheduled a time for Brother Tariq to come to Philadelphia to interview me, which he did. And a couple months later, I got a phone call from a group of friends of mine who had a movie theater in New York City. It was February 2011, and they told me that they were watching me on the big screen in the movies. And I promptly told them that they must be mistaken because I've never been in the movie. And they said, well, you were interviewed for the Hidden Colors documentary. And I said, yes, I was, but I wasn't aware that my interview was actually used in the documentary. So it was a pleasant surprise to get that phone call from my friends from the theater, opening night of Hidden Colors documentary in New York City. It was a pleasant surprise to have learned that my interview was in fact used as a part of the documentary.
When we go to Asia, we see that the founder of the samurai warrior, in Japan, was an African. We found that the founders of the ninja system was an African. In fact, in Japan, there's a saying that if you don't have a little bit of African blood, you can never truly be a samurai.
Martial arts was established by a black Dravidian who was living in southern India by the name of Bodhidharma. The Bodhidharma, it was said that he walked from southern India into Asia, China, and on his way there, he would study the fighting mechanisms of animals, and he used that as a form of self-defense for himself, and that's where martial arts started. There was another guy named Tigwai who was an original master of martial arts, and if you look at old paintings of Tigwai, this dude looks like Lionel Richie. So martial arts was really established in Africa. Even during slavery in Brazil, there's a form of Brazilian martial arts, which is African martial arts called capoeira. And what they would do, the African slaves would practice this form of martial art, and they would disguise it as dancing.
When we look at the early pictures of most of the deities of Asia, nearly all of them bore striking resemblance to the deities of the Nile Valley civilizations. And even in their writings, you will see that even in Asia, not just Greece and Rome, but even in Asia, you see them paying tribute to the spiritual systems and history that they had learned in Africa. In fact, the Asian spiritual system is probably the closest approximate to the traditional African spiritual system. From the one, you get many, with the creator being manifested in all living organisms, be it a tree or a human being. That is fundamental to Asian thought, but it's also fundamental to African thought, which predated Asia.
How do you think that we could get our youths to, engage and, embrace this film?
Well, one thing we have to understand is whenever you use sound and image in a proper way, you can help raise the consciousness of anyone. So with reference to the youth, all we simply need to do is sit them down and make them watch it. And the beauty of the Hidden Colors documentary is that you really don't have to sell it, it sells itself. So it's just a matter of turning it on. After 5 or 10 minutes, most of them are going to be intrigued by what they hear, and just the energy of the movie itself. The vibrations are so high that it's likely to catch the attention of almost anyone. Whenever you see a documentary like Hidden Colors, it automatically motivates you. It motivates adults, it motivates elders, it motivates children, it motivates the teenagers. But what we have to do is make sure that we do something with that motivation before it waxes and wanes, because motivation doesn't stay at a constant high. It gets high, and then after a while it begins to drop if we don't find something for them to do constructive with that energy. So we have to make sure that we follow up the tremendous energy of Hidden Colors with a serious grassroots revolutionary effort to help capture the minds of our young people and give them something constructive to do.
How do we seek strategies and solutions to the issues that are being explored within the film?
Solving our problems really isn't the difficult part. We have enough people who are well versed in the various expertises to help us, go down that correct road to get things done the right way. It's the unity. It's bringing African people together long enough to do something that is of importance to them. That's the problem. Keeping us together. Solving the problems is easy. Keeping us together long enough to get the problem solved is our problem.
If Marcus Garvey was here today, he would be upset with several things. Number one, He would be upset with the fact that we're turning our history and our culture into a product to be sold and marketed. He would also be upset with the amount of attention we spend talking about how to solve our problems without necessarily implementing it. He would have an issue with the significant lack of Pan-African thought that takes place in our grassroots organizations. He would not like the role that many of us as men have put our sisters in our grassroots organizations. He would have an issue with the fact that so many of us have an issue identifying ourselves as Africans, trying to escape out of our race and join other identities. He would take issue with the fact that many of us are loyal to our religions above our race. That we are not putting race first.
I think we have become too romantic of a people. We are too celebratory. We like to engage in the cultural aesthetic of revolution. We like to participate in the social aspects of struggle, but we don't like to participate in the political or economic aspects of struggle. And as a result of that, a lot of people are beginning to give up on struggle because they're saying this seems to just be a form of social entertainment, edutainment, if you will. They're looking for something that is a lot more practical and something that is a lot more beneficial and something that supersedes the obvious surface texture of so much of the things that we do. We're turning our culture into a product, and we don't want to do that. And whenever you begin to turn anything that is meaningful into something that is superficial, it begins to lose its value. So we need to redirect the cultural direction in which we're headed, because if we don't, a lot of our children are going to begin to consider their culture to be something that is irrelevant.
What is your view on, the way, the mindset of the African diaspora in the UK in relation to the US?
Well, I think that Pan-Africanism, which is the only solution to the problems that we have, it appears to be going by the wayside. I don't think we're doing enough to link up with brothers and sisters from around the world. And I think that until we begin to deal significantly from a Pan-African perspective, then all hope is going to be lost, because the enemies that we face, the barriers and the challenges that are presented before us have an international flavor. White supremacy is thoroughly organized against the African, but we're not thoroughly organized against white supremacy. So now is the time for Africans from all of the continents to come together and forge a serious political and economic program to help lift ourselves out of the situation that we're in. Because if there's one thing that we must agree on, and that is no one's going to save the African but him and herself.
Give thanks, my brother. Word, sound, and power. Blessed love.
Bless.